Captain Elena Reeves stepped off the transport shuttle and immediately felt lighter. Her boots touched the metal floor of Station Apex 7, but something felt wrong. Every step wanted to bounce. Every movement felt too easy, like walking on a trampoline. "Stay focused," she whispered to her team. Behind her, 5 other humans filed out of the shuttle, all wearing the dark blue uniforms of Earth's diplomatic corps. They were the first humans to attend the trials of strength, and every eye in the galaxy would be watching. The docking bay stretched before them like a massive cathedral made of metal and glass. Hundreds of beings moved through the space, but none of them looked human. Some had scales that shimmered under the lights. Others had fur or skin in colors Elena had never seen on Earth. A few had extra arms, several had tails, and all of them were staring at the humans. A creature that looked like a 7-foot-tall lizard walked toward them. Its scales were deep red, and its yellow eyes studied the humans with obvious amusement. This was Vexthor, the Kralix warrior they had been warned about. "So these are the humans," Vexthor said, his voice rumbling like thunder. "They look so small." Laughter echoed through the docking bay. Other aliens joined in, their various sounds of amusement mixing into a chorus of mockery. Elena kept her face calm. She had expected this. Earth had only made contact with the Galactic Council 3 years ago, and humanity was still the newest species to join. They were also, according to the biological surveys, one of the smallest and weakest. "Captain Reeves," another voice called. This one was softer, almost musical. A Vethrian approached, floating a few inches off the ground using some kind of anti-gravity device. The Vethrian looked fragile, with thin limbs and pale blue skin that seemed almost transparent. "I am Ambassador Shelnai. Welcome to Station Apex 7. I must ask, are you certain your people are prepared for the trials? We have medical facilities available if anyone feels unwell." "We're fine," Elena said. "Thank you for your concern." Shelnai's large eyes blinked slowly. "The station operates at 0.4 standard gravity. For most species, this is comfortable, but I worry it might still be too much for humans. Your planet's gravity rating was concerning when we reviewed it." Elena wanted to laugh, but held it back. Earth's gravity was too much? The station felt like she was walking on the moon. Everything here was so light, so easy, but she said nothing. "Not yet." "Please, follow me," Shelnai said. "I will show you to your quarters." As the human delegation walked through the station, Elena noticed more strange things. Every alien they passed moved with an odd bouncing gait, like they were walking in slow motion. Some used mechanical devices to help them move. Others wore what looked like powered exoskeletons, even though they were just walking through hallways. Lieutenant James Chen, walking beside Elena, leaned close. "Captain, are they all wearing assistance gear just to move around?" "Looks like it," Elena whispered back. "Don't comment, just observe." They passed a cargo area where workers were loading supplies. Elena watched as a Kralix worker wearing a full mechanical exosuit struggled to lift a crate. The exosuit's arms whined and hissed as hydraulics engaged. The worker finally got the crate onto a hover pallet and stood back, clearly exhausted. Sergeant Aiden Torres caught Elena's eye and raised an eyebrow. She shook her head slightly. "Not yet." Their quarters were in the diplomatic wing, a series of connected rooms with large windows overlooking the planet below. The accommodations were nice, but everything felt oversized. The beds were too high, the chairs were too large. Nothing was built for humans. "The opening ceremony begins in 2 hours, Shelnai said. "Please rest until then. And please, be careful. We have lowered the gravity in this section to 0.35 to make you more comfortable." After the ambassador left, the team gathered in Elena's room. "This is insane," Torres said, jumping slightly and nearly hitting his head on the ceiling. "They think we're made of glass." "Let them think it," Elena said, "for now." Chen pulled out his data pad and reviewed the information they had gathered. "Captain, I've been looking at the biological data we received about council species. Every single one of them comes from a low-gravity world. The highest is the urine at zero point 0.7. Most are between zero point 0.4 and zero point 0.6. And Earth? Elena asked, though she knew the answer. 1.0. Standard. We're the only species in the council from a high-gravity world. The team sat in silence, understanding what that meant. Every species in the galaxy thought humans were weak because humans looked small compared to many aliens. But none of them understood what it meant to grow up on a world where gravity constantly pulled you down, where every step required real effort, where your bones and muscles had to be strong just to stand up. They have no idea, Torres said quietly. No, Elena agreed, they don't. 2 hours later, the human delegation entered the Grand Hall for the opening ceremony. The room was enormous, filled with hundreds of aliens representing dozens of species. Banners hung from the ceiling, each one showing the symbol of a different world. The humans were announced last. As they walked to their designated area, whispers followed them. Look how they struggle. Poor things. Why did the council accept them? Elena kept her head high. Her team matched her stride, moving with military precision despite the strange gravity. The ceremony was long and boring. Speaker after speaker talked about honor, strength, and the glory of the trials. Finally, it was time for the traditional challenge. This was where any delegate could issue a challenge to another species, a friendly test of strength to set the tone for the trials ahead. It was supposed to be ceremonial, respectful. Vexthor stood up. I wish to issue a challenge, the Kralix warrior announced. His voice carried across the hall. To the humans. The room fell silent. Elena felt every eye turn toward her. A simple test, Vexthor continued. A demonstration of basic strength. If the human captain can lift a standard training weight, we will know they belong here. If not, he let the sentence hang. The implication was clear. If Elena failed, humanity would be seen as too weak to participate in the trials. They would be sent home in disgrace. Elena stood. I accept. The crowd parted as she walked to the center of the hall. Vexthor directed workers to bring out the weight. It was a simple bar with plates on each end, designed for basic lifting exercises. 180 units, Vexthor announced, standard weight for basic training. Elena looked at the bar. In Earth terms, it was about 180 kilograms, or roughly 400 pounds. For a Kralix wearing a power assist exoframe in low gravity, it was probably manageable. For them, this was basic. She approached the weight. The crowd leaned forward, expecting to see her struggle, possibly fail, maybe even hurt herself trying. Elena bent down, gripped the bar with both hands, set her stance, and lifted. The weight came up smoothly. No struggle, no shaking. She straightened her legs, held the bar at her waist for a moment, then set it down with controlled precision. The grand hall was completely silent. Elena looked at Vexthor. The Kralix warrior's mouth hung open. She could see his exoframe, the mechanical supports running along his arms and spine. He had been wearing power assistance. She had lifted the weight with just her muscles. Is there anything else? Elena asked calmly. No one answered. She walked back to her delegation, leaving the weight where it lay, in a galaxy full of aliens wondering what they had just witnessed. The morning of the trials arrived with tension thick enough to cut. Elena and her team ate breakfast in their quarters, watching news feeds from across the galaxy. Every channel was talking about the weightlifting incident. Experts claim the human must have used hidden technology, one reporter said. The image showed Elena lifting the weight, played over and over. Galactic Council officials are demanding scans. Let them scan, Torres said, taking a bite of something that was supposed to be eggs, but tasted like paste. They won't find anything because there's nothing to find. Chen checked his datapad. The first event starts in 1 hour, the Universal Combat Course. It's designed to test strength, speed, endurance, and tactical thinking all at once. Elena nodded. She had studied the course layout. It was 2 miles long with obstacles throughout, climbing walls, balance beams, weights to carry, barriers to jump, mock combat scenarios at various checkpoints. For the galactic species, it was considered extremely difficult. For humans trained on Earth, it looked like a basic military fitness test. Remember, Elena told her team as they changed into their gear, we're not here to show off. We're here to demonstrate human capabilities honestly. Give your best effort, but don't mock anyone. Even after they mocked us? Torres asked. Especially after they mocked us. We're better than that. The team wore simple military fatigues, standard boots, and light tactical gear. No exoskeletons, no powered armor, no anti-gravity assists, just humans and their equipment. When they arrived at the staging area, they saw what everyone else was wearing. The Kralix team had full combat exosuits, massive frames of metal and hydraulics that doubled their size. The Vithrian squad wore sleek, powered armor with built-in anti-gravity generators. The Uran, the species from the highest gravity world besides Earth, had partial exoskeletons supporting their legs and backs. Every species had mechanical assistance. Vexthor saw the humans and laughed. You forgot your equipment, little humans. Should we wait while you get your suits? We have our equipment, Elena said calmly. That is nothing. You will never complete the course in basic clothing. Elena smiled. Then this should be interesting. The teams lined up at the starting point. There were 8 squads total, each representing a different species. The human team was dead last in the predictions. Several bookmakers had stopped taking bets on them entirely, considering it a waste of credits. The starting horn blared. The course began with a half-mile run. The other species took off with their powered assistants, moving at what they probably thought was high speed. Their exosuits pushed them forward, mechanical legs pumping. The human team ran like they were jogging in the park. Within 200 meters, they had passed the Vithrian team. Within 400 meters, they caught the Uran. By the half-mile mark, only the Kralix were ahead, and barely. The first obstacle was a climbing wall, 30 feet high. The Kralix team activated their wall climbing gear, magnetic grips locking onto the surface. The Uran used built-in grappling hooks. Lieutenant Chen reached the wall and simply started climbing. His hands found holds, his feet pushed. In 20 seconds, he was at the top. The rest of the human team followed, moving up the wall like it was a ladder. Below them, the Kralix were still engaging their equipment. The second obstacle was a balance beam suspended over a water pit. It was narrow and designed to test coordination while wearing heavy equipment. Torres ran across it at full speed, his arms out slightly for balance. The beam barely moved under his weight. The rest of the team followed, treating it like a simple exercise they had done 1,000 times in basic training. The Kralix tried to follow, but their exosuits made them too heavy. They had to go slowly, carefully, their mechanical assistance systems struggling to maintain balance. Kilometer 1 became Kilometer 2. The human team pulled further ahead. Their breathing was elevated but controlled. Their movements were precise. They weren't slowing down. Behind them, other teams were struggling. The Vithrian squad had 2 members drop out from exhaustion. The Uran were moving slower, their exoskeletons overheating from extended use. The Kralix team kept pushing, determined not to be beaten by the humans. But even with their powered suits, they were falling behind. The third obstacle was a carrying exercise. Each team had to transport heavy equipment containers across a 100-meter zone. The containers weighed 150 units each. Chen picked up a container and started walking. No exosuit, no assistance, just muscle. Elena grabbed another one, then Torres, then the rest of the team. They walked across the zone like they were carrying groceries. The crowd watching through screens and at viewing stations around the course fell silent. Medical monitors showed human heart rates elevated to around 140 beats per minute. High, but not dangerous. Not even close to their maximum. The other species' monitors showed them in distress. Red lights flashed on Krallick's displays as their suits compensated for their biological limits. Urine medics stood by, ready to pull their team if the readings got worse. Kilometer 3 brought another running section, this time uphill. The elevation gain was significant, designed to tax even the strongest teams. The human team ran faster. Torres was grinning now, enjoying himself. Captain, permission to speak? Granted. This is easier than the Crucible. He was referring to the final test in Marine training on Earth. 54 hours of continuous exercise, covering over 40 miles. Much easier, Elena agreed. The final kilometer included a combat scenario. Teams had to navigate through a mock battlefield, dealing with simulated enemies using training weapons. The course designers had placed targets that required both accuracy and speed. The human team moved through it like a coordinated machine. Chen called out targets. Torres and the others engaged with their training rifles. Every shot hit. Every movement was economical, practiced, perfect. They crossed the finish line at record pace. The Krallick's team came in second, 5 minutes behind. Their exosuits were smoking from overuse. Vexthor stumbled as he crossed the line, his face showing complete exhaustion. The Urine came in third, but only 2 of their 5 team members completed the course. The other teams didn't finish. Elena and her team stood at the finish line, breathing hard but not collapsed. Sweat soaked their uniforms. Their legs burned, their hearts pounded, but they were fine. They could have kept going. Medical staff rushed forward with scanners, still convinced the humans must be using hidden technology or illegal enhancements. They scanned for cybernetics, genetic modification, chemical assistance, anything that would explain what they had just witnessed. They found nothing. One medic, a small insectoid creature named Tikrex, looked at Elena in confusion. Your biology, it shows stress but not trauma. You are tired but not injured. How is this possible? The course was designed to push enhanced species to their limits. Elena wanted to tell him. She wanted to explain that humans trained in 1.0 gravity, that every run they did on Earth was harder than anything on this station, that their bodies were built to endure. But she didn't have to. A voice spoke through the station's communication system. All delegates, please report to Assembly Hall 3. Dr. Kelnora of the Urine Science Council has requested an emergency presentation. The teams made their way to the assembly hall. Elena's team walked normally. The other teams limped, supported by medical staff and their now drained equipment. The hall was smaller than the Grand Hall, more intimate. A holographic display dominated one wall. Dr. Kelnora stood beside it, her tall frame supported by a medical exoskeleton. She looked tired, but excited. I have been studying the human biology data, she began without preamble, and I have discovered something that explains everything we witnessed today. The display lit up, showing a chart of planetary data. For decades, I have studied gravity and its effects on evolution. Each species in the Council evolved on a world with specific gravitational conditions. These conditions shaped our bodies, our strength, our limitations. She pointed to the chart. Names and numbers appeared. Krallick's homeworld, 0.6 G. Vethrian homeworld, 0.5 G. Urine homeworld, 0.7 G. Species after species, all between 0.4 and 0.7 standard gravity units. Then, at the bottom of the list, Earth, 1.0 G. The hall erupted in noise. Aliens talking, shouting, questioning. The number couldn't be right. 1.0 was the baseline, the standard that all other gravity was measured against. No one actually lived on a full standard world, except humans did. Dr. Kelnora continued, raising her voice. This station operates at 0.4 gravity, comfortable for most of us. Standard, normal. She paused for effect. For humans, this station has 40% of their world's gravity. Every step they take here, they are fighting 40% less resistance. Every movement is easier. Every weight is lighter. The hall fell silent. The humans have been operating at less than half their normal conditions, and they still broke our records. Vexthor stood up, his voice shaking. That, that cannot be true. If they are this strong in low gravity, what are they like on their world? Elena stood. Every eye turned to her. She spoke clearly, her voice carrying through the hall. On Earth, what you saw today would be considered a light workout, a warm-up before real training begins. The galaxy finally understood. They hadn't mocked the weak. They had mocked the strongest species any of them had ever encountered. The assembly hall remained frozen in shocked silence. Dr. Kelnora's revelation hung in the air like a bomb that had just exploded. Aliens stared at the humans with new eyes, seeing not weakness, but something they couldn't fully understand. Commander Thexal of the Kralix Military Command stood slowly. He was older than Vexthor, with darker scales and scars crossing his face. When he spoke, his voice was cold and controlled. This cannot stand. We need proof. Real proof, not just numbers on a screen. The biological scans show no enhancements, Dr. Kelnora said. The humans are natural. I don't care about scans, Thexal growled. I want a real test. Combat. Direct. Honest. He turned to face Elena. Your species claims to be strong because of your world's gravity. Prove it. One of yours against one of ours. Hand-to-hand combat. No tricks, no technology, just biology. Elena felt her team tense beside her. This was dangerous. Not physically, she knew humans could handle themselves, but politically. If they hurt a Kralix warrior too badly, it could create an incident. If they refused, they would look afraid. What are the terms? She asked carefully. Simple rules, Thexal said. One fighter from each side. Fight until submission or unconsciousness. We choose the gravity level, you choose your fighter. We need the Council to approve this, Ambassador Shelnai said, floating forward with concern on his face. Violence between delegates is forbidden. This is not violence, Thexal argued. This is an official challenge, a test. The trials are meant to demonstrate strength. Let us demonstrate it properly. The council members present began to argue. Some supported the idea, wanting to see what humans were really capable of. Others opposed it, worried about injury or worse. The debate went on for 20 minutes. Finally, the senior council member, an ancient being named Zexthar, spoke. I will allow it, but with conditions. The fight takes place in the variable gravity combat chamber. Medical teams will be standing by. The fight stops if either participant is seriously injured, and both sides must agree to the gravity level. Thexal nodded. Acceptable. Vexthor will fight for the Kralix. All eyes turned to Elena. She looked at her team. Chen was capable but better at tactics than direct combat. The other team members were good, but this needed someone who could handle the pressure of the entire galaxy watching. She looked at Torres. The sergeant met her eyes and nodded slightly. Sergeant Aiden Torres will represent humanity. Torres stepped forward. He was not the biggest human, standing at 5'10" and weighing about 180 pounds. Compared to Vexthor, who stood over 7 feet tall, even without his exosuit, Torres looked small. Now for the gravity, Thexal said with a cruel smile. 0.7, the highest gravity used for any council training, the same as the Uran homeworld. Dr. Kelnora frowned. That is still less than Earth gravity. It is the highest we have, Thexal said. Unless the human wants to fight at full Earth gravity, we can set it to 1.0. Torres spoke before Elena could. 0.7 is fine. They moved to the variable gravity combat chamber, a large room with adjustable gravity plating built into the floor and walls. Medical teams set up around the perimeter. Cameras focused on the center, broadcasting to the entire station and beyond. Vexthor entered the chamber wearing simple combat clothing. Without his exosuit, he looked less massive, but still dangerous. His muscles were lean and his movements carried practiced grace. He had trained for combat since childhood. Torres entered from the other side. He wore the same fatigues he had worn for the course, now dried from sweat. He did some basic stretches, rolling his shoulders and shaking out his legs. The crowd gathered around the viewing windows. Thousands of aliens watched through screens across the galaxy. Everyone wanted to see this. Chamber gravity will now increase to point 0.7, an automated voice announced. Participants should brace. The gravity plating engaged. The effect was immediate. Around the viewing area, aliens who weren't wearing support gear stumbled or grabbed for support. Even with exoskeletons, they felt the increased pull. In the chamber, Vexthor's posture changed. His shoulders hunched slightly as his body adapted to the increased weight. His breathing became heavier. Torres stood normally. For him, it was still lighter than home. Combat will begin in 10 seconds, the automated voice announced. Incapacitation, submission, or medical intervention will end the match. Elena watched from the viewing window, her hands pressed against the glass. She knew Torres was good, but she also knew this was more than just a fight. This was humanity's reputation on the line. 5 seconds. Vexthor dropped into a combat stance, his hands up and ready. Torres remained relaxed, almost casual. Begin. Vexthor moved first, lunging forward with a strike aimed at Torres's head. It was fast, trained, and would have been devastating if it connected. It didn't connect. Torres moved his head 6 inches to the side. The punch sailed past. He didn't counter, didn't attack, just avoided. Vexthor threw another punch, then another. Each one missed by the smallest margin. Torres was reading his movements, understanding his timing, studying him. The Kralix warrior snarled in frustration and changed tactics. He went for a grapple, using his reach and size advantage. His arms wrapped around Torres, trying to lift him and slam him down. Torres dropped his center of gravity and twisted. Suddenly, Vexthor was holding air. Torres was behind him, still not attacking. "Fight me!" Vexthor roared. The crowd murmured. Why wasn't the human attacking? Was he afraid? Elena knew better. Torres was doing what human fighters did best. He was learning his opponent, letting Vexthor tire himself, waiting for the right moment. That moment came 30 seconds later. Vexthor threw a heavy kick. Torres caught it. For a split second, Vexthor's balance was completely compromised. Torres moved. It happened so fast that most of the crowd didn't see it. Torres swept Vexthor's standing leg while pushing his caught leg. The Kralix warrior went down hard. Before he could recover, Torres was on him, applying a control hold that pinned Vexthor's arm behind his back at an angle that was painful but not damaging. Vexthor struggled, trying to use his size to break free, but Torres had position, leverage, and earth-trained strength. The hold was perfect. "Submit," Torres said quietly, his voice calm. Vexthor struggled for another few seconds. Then his free hand tapped the ground 3 times. Submission. Torres released him immediately and stepped back, offering a hand to help Vexthor stand. The Kralix warrior stared at the offered hand for a long moment, then took it. The match had lasted 8 seconds from first strike to submission. The viewing area exploded with noise. Aliens argued, shouted, and demanded explanations. The cameras had caught everything, but many couldn't believe what they had seen. "How?" Vexthor asked, still breathing hard. "I am trained. I am strong. How did you defeat me so easily?" Torres looked uncomfortable with the attention. "You're strong. You're trained. But you trained in lower gravity. Your reflexes are tuned for 0.6. Your strikes expect less resistance. Your balance assumes lighter weight." He paused. "I trained on Earth. Everything is heavier there. Everyone is stronger. To survive combat training there, you have to be faster, hit harder, endure more." Commander Thexal pushed through the crowd to enter the chamber. His face was unreadable. He approached Torres and stood before him for a long, tense moment. Then he placed his fist over his heart. a Krallick's sign of respect to a superior warrior. "The humans are not weak," he said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "We were wrong, completely wrong." But not everyone accepted it gracefully. A voice called out from the back of the crowd, "If they are this strong now, what happens if they become hostile? What happens if Earth decides to conquer instead of cooperate?" The speaker was Ambassador Jurthak of the Zurax Empire, a species that wasn't on the council but had observer status. The Zurax were known for their paranoia and their large military. "What happens if we just showed you how dangerous we could be?" Jurthak continued. "What happens when humans decide they don't need the council? When they realize they can take whatever they want?" The crowd fell silent. The question everyone had been thinking, but not saying, was now out in the open. Elena stepped into the chamber. She walked to the center where everyone could see her clearly. "You want to know what happens if humans become hostile?" she asked. Her voice was quiet but carried through the chamber. "You want to know what we're capable of if we decide to fight?" She looked around at all the faces, all the species represented. "Then you should hope you never find out, because the same gravity that made us strong also taught us something else. It taught us endurance. It taught us that when you get knocked down, you get back up. It taught us to never stop, never quit, never surrender." She let that sink in for a moment. "But here's what else Earth's gravity taught us. It taught us to help each other stand. It taught us that everyone struggles under weight, and the right thing to do is to help carry the load. It taught us that strength without purpose is just violence." Elena looked directly at Jerthok. "We came here seeking friendship. We came here to learn and share and grow together. We didn't come here to conquer. We came here to belong. That's what humanity wants. Not dominance, just a place in the galaxy as equals." She turned to address everyone. "But make no mistake, if someone threatens Earth, threatens humanity, threatens our friends, then yes, you'll learn exactly what Earth's gravity created, and you won't enjoy the lesson." The silence that followed was different from before. Not shocked, not fearful. Something more complex. Understanding maybe, or the beginning of respect. Dr. Kelnora spoke up. "I propose the Council takes a recess to discuss these developments. We need time to understand the implications and to determine the best path forward." The Council members agreed. Everyone began filing out of the chamber, but Elena noticed something. Several aliens approached Torres to congratulate him on his victory. Others approached the human delegation to ask questions about Earth, about human culture, about training methods. The mockery was gone. In its place was curiosity, and maybe, just maybe, the beginning of real understanding. 3 days passed since the fight. 3 days of constant meetings, debates, and arguments behind closed doors. Elena and her team remained in their quarters, waiting while the Council decided humanity's fate. The galaxy was divided. News networks showed endless debates. Some species saw humans as potential allies, strong partners who could help with problems no one else could solve. Others saw humans as a threat, too powerful to trust, too dangerous to allow unrestricted access to galactic society. On the fourth day, Elena received the summons. The Council had reached a decision. She dressed in her formal uniform, made sure her team looked professional, and headed to the Grand Hall. The walk through the station felt different now. Aliens still stared, but the looks had changed. Instead of mockery or dismissal, she saw caution, curiosity, and sometimes fear. The Grand Hall was packed. Every Council member was present, along with representatives from dozens of observer species. The room buzzed with conversation that stopped abruptly when the human delegation entered. Elena led her team to their designated area and stood at attention. Zexthar, the senior council member, rose from his seat. He was ancient even by his species' long-lived standards, and his voice carried the weight of centuries. "Captain Reeves, the Council has spent considerable time discussing the human situation. We have reviewed all available data, consulted our best scientists, and heard arguments from all sides. We have reached a decision. Elena kept her face neutral, but her heart pounded. Everything depended on what came next. But before we announce that decision, Zexthar continued, several members wish to speak. The council believes you deserve to hear all perspectives. The first to stand was Commander Thexal. The Kralix warrior approached the central podium, his expression serious. I spoke against humanity after the trials. I demanded proof of their capabilities because I did not believe what I saw. I was wrong. He looked directly at Elena. The humans are warriors, true warriors, not because they seek war, but because they have the strength to fight and the wisdom to choose when to fight. The Kralix military recommends full council membership for Earth. He sat down. Elena felt a wave of relief, but it was short-lived. Ambassador Jerthak of the Zurax Empire stood next. His species looked vaguely reptilian, with dark scales and cold eyes. The Kralix have been humbled, and so they embrace the ones who humbled them. But the Zurax are not so easily swayed. We have studied human history, their wars, their conflicts. They are a violent species. They fight each other constantly. Now we want to give them access to the galaxy, to our trade routes, to our worlds? He shook his head. The humans should be contained in their own system until they prove they can be peaceful. More voices joined in, some supporting humanity, others opposing. The arguments went back and forth for over an hour. Elena stood silently, listening to her species being analyzed, judged, and debated like they were specimens in a lab. Finally, Dr. Kelnora approached the podium. The hall quieted. The Uran scientist had become humanity's most vocal supporter. I have heard many concerns about human nature, their history of conflict, their capacity for violence, their physical superiority. These are all valid concerns, but I ask you to consider something else. She activated a holographic display showing various images from Earth: cities, forests, oceans, mountains. Humans evolved on a harsh world. High gravity, extreme weather, dangerous predators. Their planet tried to kill them every day, and yet they survived. More than survived, they thrived. They built civilizations. They created art, music, philosophy. They developed technology and reached for the stars. The images shifted to show human achievements, medical advances, engineering marvels, artistic masterpieces. Yes, humans have fought wars, but so has every species in this room. The difference is that humans fought their wars while carrying the weight of full standard gravity. Everything was harder for them. Everything required more effort. And despite that, they chose to reach beyond their world and seek us out. She paused, letting her words sink in. We fear human strength, but I have studied their biology, their psychology, their culture. And I believe their greatest strength is not their muscles or their endurance. It is their adaptability. They learn, they change, they cooperate when they need to. Dr. Kelnora looked around the hall. I propose we do not restrict humans. Instead, I propose we offer them a unique role in the council, a role that uses their capabilities for the benefit of all species. Murmurs spread through the hall. Zexthar leaned forward. Explain. There are worlds we cannot access, high-gravity planets with resources we need but cannot extract, emergency situations in dangerous environments that would kill any of our people, even with mechanical support, rescue operations in extreme conditions. Dr. Kelnora's voice grew stronger. Humans can do these things. They can go places we cannot go. They can help in ways we cannot help. She turned to face Elena. I propose the formation of a high-gravity response corps, a new branch of council operations, led by humans, supported by technology from all our species. They would handle situations that are currently impossible for us. In return, humans receive full council membership and unrestricted access to galactic society. The hall erupted in discussion. The proposal was radical, but Elena could see the genius in it. It gave humans a purpose, a role that used their abilities constructively while addressing the Council's fears. Zexthar called for order. Captain Reeves, this proposal would require significant human commitment. Your people would be asked to work in the most dangerous conditions in the galaxy, rescue missions on high-gravity worlds, construction in hostile environments, exploration of planets that would kill most species within minutes. Would humanity accept such a role? Elena thought carefully before responding. This was the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. Senior Council member, humanity has always been willing to help. On Earth we have a saying, greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down their life for their friends. We have firefighters who run into burning buildings. We have medics who work in war zones. We have volunteers who risk everything to save strangers. She looked around the hall, meeting as many eyes as she could. If humans can use our strength to save lives, to help species who cannot help themselves, then yes, we would be honored to serve in that role. Not because we want to prove we're strong, but because it's the right thing to do. The hall fell silent. Elena could see the impact of her words in the faces around her. Fear was slowly being replaced by something else. Hope, maybe. Zexthar stood. The council will vote. All members who support Dr. Kelnora's proposal and the granting of full council membership to Earth indicate now. Lights began appearing across the hall as council members voted. Elena watched, barely breathing. 1 light, 2, 5, 10. The votes kept coming. When the count finished, Zexthar announced the result. The motion passes with 82% approval. Earth is granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with the provision that humanity will lead the formation and operation of the High-Gravity Response Corps. Elena felt her team exhale collectively behind her. They had done it. Earth was now a full member of the galactic community, but Zexthar wasn't finished. Captain Reeves, the Council offers you the position of Commanding Officer of the HGRC. You would be responsible for establishing the organization, recruiting personnel, and overseeing all operations. Do you accept? Elena opened her mouth to accept, then stopped. She thought about what the role would require. Leadership, yes, but also political navigation, diplomatic skill, and the ability to balance human interests with council needs. She wasn't the right person for that job. Senior council member, I am honored, but I must decline. There is someone better suited for the position. She turned and gestured to Chen. Lieutenant James Chen has the tactical experience, the diplomatic temperament, and the vision to lead the HGRC. I recommend him for the position. Chen looked shocked. Captain? Trust me, James, you're the right choice. Zexthar considered for a moment. Lieutenant Chen, would you accept the position? Chen stood straighter. I would be honored, Senior Council member. Then it is decided. Lieutenant Chen, you are hereby promoted to Commander and appointed as the first commanding officer of the High-Gravity Response Corps. Zexthar looked at Elena. And you, Captain Reeves? I would like to serve as Earth's ambassador to the Council. Someone needs to help the galaxy understand humans, and help humans understand the galaxy. That's a role I think I can fill. Zexthar smiled, the first time Elena had seen him do so. Ambassador Reeves, that has a good sound to it. The session ended with formal ceremonies and congratulations. Species that had opposed humanity hours before now approached to offer support. The Kralix promised military cooperation. The Vethrian offered technology sharing. Even the Zurax, while still cautious, acknowledged the decision. As Elena and her team left the Grand Hall, Torres spoke quietly. We actually did it. We went from being mocked as weak to being offered a leadership role in the Council. We showed them the truth, Elena said. Not that we're better than them, just that we're different, and that our differences can help everyone. Chen was already planning, talking about recruitment, training facilities, equipment needs. Elena smiled, knowing she had made the right choice. The galaxy had mocked humans as weak. Now they understood the truth. Earth's gravity hadn't just made humans strong, it had forged them into something the galaxy desperately needed. Protectors who could go anywhere, endure anything, and never give up. 2 months later, Elena stood in the observation deck of Station Terra Prime, watching construction crews finish the final sections of the facility. The station orbited a moon with 1.2 gravity, a place that had been deemed too dangerous for permanent habitation by any council species. Until now. The High Gravity Response Corps headquarters was almost complete. It was massive, built to withstand the intense gravitational pull of the moon below. More importantly, it was built to train species from across the galaxy in conditions that would make them stronger. "Ambassador, the shuttle from Earth has arrived," a voice said behind her. Elena turned to see one of her assistants, a young Vethrian named Pelnix, who had volunteered to work with the human delegation. "Thank you. Please escort them to the main hangar. I'll meet them there." Elena made her way through the station, noting the changes that had occurred in just 2 months. The corridors were busier now, filled with beings from dozens of species. Some wore human-designed training gear, others operated construction equipment. A few were simply visiting, curious about the new facility. The main hangar was enormous, designed to accommodate large transport ships. The Earth shuttle sat in the center, dwarfed by the space around it. The cargo ramp was down, and people were already disembarking. 300 humans, the first official HGRC recruits from Earth. Commander Chen stood at the base of the ramp, checking his data pad as each recruit passed. He looked up as Elena approached and smiled. "Ambassador, they're all here. We have engineers, medics, pilots, combat specialists, and support staff. All volunteers, all ready to start training." Elena watched the recruits file past. They came from different countries, different backgrounds, different military branches. But they all shared something. They had all grown up on Earth, under Earth's gravity, and they understood what it meant to be strong. "How long until we're operational?" Elena asked. "First training cycle starts tomorrow. Basic adaptation training for non-human volunteers, advanced training for humans. We should have our first operational teams ready in 6 weeks." 6 weeks. It seemed impossibly fast, but Chen had proven himself capable of managing the impossible. In 2 months, he had established training protocols, secured equipment from a dozen different species, and created an organization from nothing. A commotion near the entrance caught Elena's attention. She turned to see a familiar figure entering the hangar. Vexthor. The Kralix warrior was unrecognizable from the confident fighter who had challenged humanity at the trials. He wore simple training clothes and moved slowly, carefully, adjusting to the station's 1.2 gravity. No exosuit, no mechanical support, just him and his determination. He approached Chen and performed the Kralix salute. "Commander Chen, Warrior Vexthor reporting for training." Chen returned the salute. "Welcome to the HGRC. You understand what you're signing up for?" "I understand. I will train in human gravity. I will learn human methods. I will become stronger." Vexthor paused. "Or I will fail trying. Either way, I will know the truth of my limits." "We don't expect you to become human," Chen said carefully. "Your biology has limits that training can't change completely, but we can help you reach your full potential. That is all I ask." Vexthor wasn't alone. Over the past weeks, volunteers from other species had arrived. Uran scientists who wanted to study high-gravity adaptation, Vethrian engineers who designed better equipment, Kralix warriors who saw strength training as a matter of honor. Even a few Zurax observers had requested permission to visit, their fear slowly giving way to curiosity. Elena left the hangar and made her way to the training center. The facility was designed with multiple gravity zones, allowing gradual adaptation. She found Torres in one of the higher gravity sections, leading a mixed group through basic exercises. The scene was remarkable. Humans moved normally, demonstrating proper form. Aliens struggled, their bodies fighting against the increased weight. But they were trying. A urine stumbled during a running exercise, but got back up. A Kralix completed a pull-up with obvious effort, then attempted another. Torres saw Elena and jogged over, barely noticing the 1.1 gravity in this section. "Ambassador, come to see the circus?" "Come to see progress," Elena corrected. "How are they doing?" "Better than expected. The urine adapt fastest since their homeworld is point 0.7. The Kralix are struggling more, but they're stubborn. The Vethrian," he gestured to where several Vethrian wore specialized support gear. "They physically can't handle much more than point 0.8 without risking injury. But they're learning, and they're pushing their limits." Elena watched a Kralix named Torvik attempt a simple obstacle course. He moved slowly, carefully, his body shaking with effort. He fell twice, but he finished. Torres walked over and offered him water. "Good work. Tomorrow we'll do it again, and you'll be faster." "I will never be as fast as humans," Torvik said between gasps. "No, but you'll be faster than any Kralix has ever been. That's what matters." This was what Elena had hoped for. Not humans dominating others, but humans helping others become better versions of themselves. 3 weeks later, the HGRC faced its first real test. A distress call came from a mining colony on a planet called Krell 9. The planet had 1.3 gravity and a toxic atmosphere. An earthquake had trapped miners deep underground. The mining company had tried to send rescue teams, but even in protective suits and exoskeletons, the rescuers couldn't work fast enough in the extreme conditions. Chen assembled a team within an hour. 4 humans, 2 urine, and 1 Kralix who had progressed rapidly in training. They boarded a fast response ship and headed to Krell 9. Elena watched from the operations center as the mission unfolded. Live feeds showed the team landing on the planet's surface. The gravity immediately affected the non-human team members, even with their training. But they moved forward, following the humans toward the collapsed mine entrance. The scene underground was worse than reported. Tons of rock blocked the main tunnel. Heavy equipment had failed in the extreme gravity. 20 miners were trapped with limited air. The human team members began clearing debris by hand, moving rocks that would have required machinery in normal gravity. The urine and Kralix team members worked alongside them, slower but determined. Hours passed. The air supply for the trapped miners dropped to critical levels. Then, breakthrough. The team cleared enough debris to create an access tunnel. One by one, they extracted the miners, carrying them through the narrow passage to safety. All 20 miners survived. The galaxy watched the news coverage. Beings who had feared human strength now saw it used to save lives. The HGRC's first mission was a complete success. More requests followed. A research station on a high-gravity world needed emergency supplies. A colony ship had crashed on a planet with extreme conditions. A construction project required workers who could operate in environments that would kill most species. The HGRC responded to every call. 6 months after its formation, Elena attended the official dedication ceremony for Station Terra Prime. Dignitaries from across the galaxy gathered in the massive central plaza, now operating at full 1.2 gravity. Many wore specialized gravity suits just to attend. Others watched via hologram from more comfortable locations. But they all wanted to be part of this moment. Zexthar gave the opening speech, praising the HGRC's accomplishments. Commander Thexol announced a partnership between the Kralix military and the HGRC for joint training programs. Dr. Kelnora presented research on gravity adaptation that would have been impossible without human cooperation. Then it was Elena's turn. She stood at the podium, looking out at the assembled species. 6 months ago, they had mocked humans as weak. Now they gathered to honor humanity's contribution to galactic society. When Earth first joined the Galactic Council, we were unknowns, mysterious creatures from a harsh world. Many of you looked at us and saw weakness. You saw our small size compared to the Kralliks. You saw our fragile appearance compared to the Vethrian. You saw limitations. She paused, letting her words settle. But Earth's gravity taught us something that we want to share with all of you. It taught us that strength isn't about how you look. It's about what you can endure. It's about getting up after being knocked down. It's about carrying weight that seems impossible to carry. She gestured around the plaza. This station stands on a high-gravity moon, a place you thought was uninhabitable. Now it's home to hundreds of beings from dozens of species, all working together, all growing stronger together. That's what Earth's gravity really gave us. Not just physical strength, but the understanding that we can be more than we think we are. Elena looked directly at Vexthor, who stood in the crowd without any support gear. In 6 months, he had adapted more than any non-human had thought possible. He would never be as strong as a human, but he was stronger than any Kralliks had ever been. The HGRC isn't about humans being superior. It's about all of us reaching our potential. It's about going to places we thought were impossible to go. It's about helping each other rise above our limitations. She finished her speech to genuine applause, not the polite acknowledgement of diplomatic protocol, but real appreciation. After the ceremony, Elena found herself in a quiet corner of the observation deck. The view showed the moon's surface below, harsh and beautiful and deadly. Ships came and went, bringing more recruits, more equipment, more species who wanted to be part of what humanity had started. Torres joined her, carrying 2 drinks. He handed her one. "Ambassador, I've been thinking about that first day at the trials, when they mocked us, when they thought we were the weakest species they'd ever seen." "Seems like a long time ago," Elena said. "It does, but you know what? I'm glad they mocked us. I'm glad they underestimated us, because it gave us the chance to show them who we really are. Not through conquest or domination, but through service, through helping." Elena smiled. "Earth's gravity didn't just make us strong, Torres. It made us who we are." Below them, a new training session was starting. Humans and aliens working side by side, all of them struggling, all of them pushing their limits, all of them becoming stronger together. The galaxy had mocked humans as weak. They had challenged humanity's right to stand among the stars. And humanity had responded not with anger or pride, but with open hands and the simple offer to help carry the weight. That, Elena thought, was the greatest strength of all. The station lights dimmed slightly, marking the transition to night cycle. But the work continued. It always continued. Because Earth's gravity had taught humanity one final lesson, the most important lesson. You never stop. You never quit. You never give up. Not when there are people who need help. Not when there are lives to save. Not when there's a galaxy full of friends who are learning what it means to be strong. Elena watched the ships coming and going, bringing more volunteers, more hope, more possibility. The HGRC was growing. Humanity's place in the galaxy was secure. But more than that, humanity had given the galaxy something it didn't know it needed. A reminder that true strength isn't about being the biggest or the toughest. True strength is about using what you have to lift others up. And that was a lesson worth learning, no matter what planet you came from.